So, as you guys know, that this is Mondays with Mooch. We have been doing our show since March. We are past when you're past the anniversary of when COVID came into our lives, and now many people are getting vaccinated, and we're starting to kind of open up again. So. I think New Jersey's supposed to be opening up around May 19th. I think that's the target date. So things are happening. Of course, we're going to be opening. I'm sure people are going to be being safe, and we're going to be having some protocols as we start to do this. But hopefully, getting together in person will be in store for our future. So I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess we're getting started. Here we go.
20 miles off the coast of Uganda, in the unpredictable waters of Lake Victoria, lies an island full of mystery. Unknown even to the local residents, it is an island of musical rocks. Numerous prehistoric stone gongs sit silently beneath the huge granite boulders that characterize Loloi Island.
When I play it, I feel like I'm playing the xylophone.
As soon as we humans realized that by banging on rocks we can hear different sounds and different pitches, high notes or low notes, we started down a path of no return. Someone figured out that by organizing the rocks in size order, we can play our favorite songs, even those from prehistoric TV shows. Since then, over millennia, the idea develops into the use of different materials such as wood and subsequently metal, producing different sonorities. The xylophone and similar instruments of ancient Asia and West and Central Africa begat the marimba, which begat the vibraphone. Which now brings us to leap to the year 1916, which was incidentally a leap year. To put the year in perspective, we were in the middle of World War I, which would involve the U.S. and would see the continent of Europe split into two major opposing alliances. The president, Woodrow Wilson, had his hands full, but he also sent 12,000 troops over the U.S.-Mexico border to pursue Pancho Villa. He also sent the Marines to invade the Dominican Republic. But then again, he did sign legislation creating the Boy Scouts and also the National Park Service. So 1916, the year that John D. Rockefeller becomes the first person ever to reach a nominal personal fortune of $1 billion. No, he didn't reach that by promoting jazz or manufacturing vibraphones, for that matter. Musician bandleader Harry James was born in 1916, as was guitarist Tiny Grimes, trumpeter Cat Anderson, composer Milton Babbitt, television journalist Walter Cronkite, Kirk Douglas, and Betty Grable. Oh, sorry, I slipped into a Walter Cronkite impersonation. Where was I? Oh, yeah. It was also the year that Grigory Rasputin, the Russian mystic to the Tsar, was assassinated. That year, Bill Newton and Morris Goldberg together invented the toggle light switch. Gustav Holst composed The Planets. The most popular song of that year was O Solo Mio, sung by Enrico Caruso. It was arguably the year of the first jazz recording by the African-American instrumental quartet, the Versatile Four. That year, Lionel Hampton was 8 years old and had just moved with his family from Kenosha, Wisconsin to Chicago. Louis Armstrong was 15 and was already playing his horn, but was also pimping for a prostitute named Nutzi, until she stabbed him in the shoulder, which led to his mother choking her nearly to death. Along the Jersey Shore in the summer of 1916, at least one shark attacks 5 swimmers, resulting in 4 deaths and the survival of one youth who requires limb amputations. This event was the inspiration for author Peter Benchley over a half-century later to write Jaws. Okay, so now we have a picture of that time period. And it was that very year, 1916, that instrument maker Herman Winterhoff of the Leedy Manufacturing Company experimented with the marimbaphone, or the steel bar marimba, transforming it into what would eventually become our beloved vibraphone. Herman was apparently obsessed with the vox humana effects. Vox humana, Latin for human voice. It's a short resonator reed stop on the pipe organ. It's named because of its supposed resemblance to the human voice. He added an oscillating motor mechanism that produced a slight fluctuating timbre and pitch to approximate vibrato of the human voice, with the resonators or pipes suspended underneath the bars to amplify their sound. This was all developed and improved upon later, beginning around 1927, by the J.C. Deegan Company and their chief engineer, Henry Schluter, and this model became the standards for vibraphones from then on. Today, the vibraphone consists of precisely tuned metal bars and is usually played by holding 2 or 4 soft mallets and striking the bars. Each bar suspends over a resonator tube with a motor-driven butterfly valve at the top, which produces the tremolo or vibrato effect. By 1930, the time that Lionel Hampton was in his early 20s, he was playing drums with the Les Hype Band when Louis Armstrong hired the whole band for performances and recordings. By then, Lionel had been practicing on a vibraphone. So in a studio one day, when he played Armstrong's solo back to him note for note, Satchmo asked him to play the vibes on the recording to back up his vocal choruses. And so began Lionel Hampton's career as a vibraphonist, popularizing the use of the instrument specifically in jazz and as a frontline lead instrument in the process. According to noted music critic and author Charles Waring, nothing sounds cooler in jazz than the limpid, bell-like chimes of a vibraphone as its notes cascade over a swinging groove. Listed here, in no specific order, are some of the most notable vibraphonists of our time. Lionel Hampton, Milt Jackson, Emil Richards, Mike Mainieri, Joe Locke, Marjorie Hyams, Gary McFarlane, Red Norvo, Terry Gibbs, Dave Samuels, Warren Wolf, Roy Ayers, Stefan Harris, Cal Jader, Gary Burton, Bobby Hutcherson, and of course, tonight's guest, Tony Miceli. Internationally renowned jazz vibraphonist Tony Miceli has established himself as one of the primary voices on the mallet instrument, winning hearts and minds wherever he plays. His achievements, however, go much further beyond the norm. As a leader, sideman, and recording artist, he has performed with numerous top musicians, including David Liebman, Jimmy Bruno, Ken Poplawski, Joe Magnarelli, Steve Slagle, Larry McKenna, and many, many others. In addition to his busy schedule of club dates, concert performances, and recordings, Miceli is a sought-after master teacher. His touring includes workshops in major cities all around the globe. While at his home base in Philadelphia, he conducts master classes at the renowned Curtis Institute of Music and gives private instruction in his home studio. He is a member of the jazz faculty at the University of Arts and Temple University and serves as a consultant to various music and arts organizations. Tony is also co-creator of the World Vibes Congress, a formal gathering of players who share the desire to bring public awareness to the vibraphone. It is worth noting that Miceli is part of Team Omega, an elite group of vibes players that includes only 3 others: headliner David Friedman, Joe Locke, and Stefan Harris. Miceli is a consummate, versatile musician who is involved in diverse musical currents and projects. His CD, Hippie Jazz, with vocalist Meg Clifton, recapitulated the rock music of the 60s and 70s in a jazz format. In a concert called Mozart Reloaded at the Kimmel Center, he played vibes improvisations behind singer Joanna Pascal's rendition of a Mozart opera aria. With crossover violinist Diane Monroe, he is now working on a project using jazz, folk, and classical influences. Internationally known on the web, Miceli provides online instruction, information, and video interactive classes. He is the proprietor of Miceli Music LLC and is a signature artist endorsing Malletech Products, a premier mallet instrument manufacturing company right here nearby in Neptune, New Jersey. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tony Miceli.
Okay.
Welcome, welcome.
Wait a minute. Where's my camera?
Wow. What an intro.
I hate hearing people talk about me. So weird.
So Tony, you look all set up there tonight, so this is exciting.
Well, with COVID, I do
here.
everything in here.
Oh, okay. So this is your home studio.
This is my home.
Beautiful.
Studio, you can see. I got cameras, lights. I mean, the whole.
So you're on. Seems like you're on regularly then. This is not new for you.
Well, I teach at 4 universities, and luckily I have about 20 or so private students and college students, and they're all over the world. And the good thing about COVID is everybody wants to take lessons on Zoom now. So
Okay.
now I can get calls from people live in the middle of nowhere and they have a vibraphone and they want to practice.
Yeah.
And I can do it. It's a little harder before COVID, but I've been teaching online for about 13 years now.
I was gonna say I looked at some of your material online and I said you were kind of ahead of the curve. So I saw that you. I know Joe will get into it later, but I saw that your vibraphone workshop started in 2008. So.
Yes, you know what's really funny? My hair was black when it started. So when I look at those people, my students go on and they go back to 2008 or 9, and they look at these pictures and they go, "Oh my God!"
Well, gray or black is beautiful. I wish I had some.
At least you still have hair, right?
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Welcome, Joe. You're on. You made it.
So, Tony, we go back a ways.
We go back a ways. Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Piscopo.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
So I take it you performed in Red Bank on numerous.
Well, in Atlantic City and all over. We put together sort of a recreation of the Red Norvo Sextet. And it has to have a vibes in there. So Tony was the guy.
Yeah.
And well, you hold down the Philadelphia jazz scene, I suppose, over there, right?
Well, when a few years back, before I really started teaching, it was all mine. But, the thing about teaching, you make some great students and all of a sudden you start losing your territory. What's that joke? uh, everybody, do you know who Tony Miceli? Well, you know who Tony Miceli is? No, doesn't he play? I can't remember, but the joke is the legacy of a musician's life, and towards the end, your students start getting all the gigs and all the stuff, and you
Right.
kind of gracefully or ungracefully fade off the scene. But I still have plenty to do here, and there's room for a bunch of us. I always
Sure.
think.
And yeah, I mean, you built a studio right there, so you're pretty much, you have endless possibilities.
Yeah, I have endless possibilities. There's some recordings. Guys are doing recordings now, which isn't as much fun, but if it brings a check, that's okay. And guys are recording separately, so somebody will put something together, and then send it and say, I need vibes on this, and you make some studio money, and you do it here. I have great mics. I've got a great room, and I just do it as long as it's quiet. I have 2 parakeets outside, and above me lives a pig.
You're kidding.
No
So
Is your pig?
that's my sister's pig,
Okay.
and he's gigantic. And when he yells, pigs don't just go, "Hey, give me food." They scream, "Give me food."
kidding. Squeal
So
like a
sometimes in the middle of a class, you hear "Ah!" and everyone's going, "What? Who's somebody getting killed upstairs?" So
pig. Fascinating.
yeah.
A horror film or something, like what's going on?
A little bit, yeah. That's what it sounds like. Yes.
We could probably use that in somehow. You could use that in a recording somehow.
Sound effect. Yep.
Yeah.
So now, in your history, you played quite a few instruments before you settled on the vibraphones. You had piano, you had drums, you had quite a few. Do you still play those instruments?
No. I mean, I play enough piano to teach. I stopped as soon as I played the marimba, and then it led to the vibraphone. I just fell in love with it, and I stopped doing everything.
Really?
Everything, and I just played when I got on the vibes. I just played the vibes, but I grew up playing classical guitar. And a story I always tell my students, when I graduated school, I had my dark years, and in those dark years, I actually smashed my guitar, and I never told my father. And 40 years later, they do a book about vibe players, and I'm in the book. And I mentioned the guitar in my dark years. I'm fine talking about it. And I mentioned smashing the guitar. Then, as a Christmas present, I send my dad the book.
Oh.
And all I get in my phone machine the next day on my phone, I check my messages, and it's my dad, and he goes, "You smashed the guitar?" So your life, your past never leaves you.
No.
As anybody my age or older knows, it always comes around and gets back at you. So, yes.
Well, apparently you had a fascination with guitar because, let me see if I can play this. For those of you who haven't seen this, let me see if I can find it. Go ahead, talk amongst yourselves for a second.
So
For those of you who haven't seen it, it's kind of an interesting Miceli moment.
I know what you're going to play.
You do,
I have a
huh?
question too. You're in Philly. Do you know Leslie Harrison?
Mm-mm.
You don't know Leslie? Okay, because she's a jazz singer, and she's a host on WBGO. So she's in Philly. She's
Oh,
back and forth between Philly and New York. So I was
that's great. I hope I get to meet her.
maybe I'll introduce you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. This goes to your fascination of guitar and your current life.
see much gray. That's an old one.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting instrument.
Yes, it's electronic. It's sitting
Oh, there it is.
here, and I've had one of those for since the 80s. What's great about technology now is, and I've always been into technology, but I can sit there and on that machine, in 30 minutes I can bang out an etude for students. So I just go, I set it to record, I play it, I quantize the notes, which kind of fixes the rhythms, and then I put the key in, check the accidentals, and send it to my students. So a lot is happening when I'm teaching. I'm playing things and sending them stuff. I'm recording things for them to play along with.
It's fascinating.
It's a lot going. The tech end of things for me is fun. It's not as much fun as the in-person end, but this is where it's going.
Yeah, but you have definitely embraced the tech end, And
Yeah, I
think we've all found that we have to in these times.
I feel really bad for a musician that isn't getting tech savvy, because
Right.
everything's about to change. Just the way, schools are thinking about, well, this class is never going to take up a classroom again, because why does music history have to take up a big room when it can just be done online? So there's all these classes that I think are going to head to Zoom. But most of the guys I know are into it and are doing things and are ready. The young guys are ready. I mean, it's their world. So,
Forgive my ignorance, but in that clip, what did we see? Because it sounded like a guitar to me, but there's something different going on. So, because I thought, yeah, that sounded very different than what I was expecting. So, can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, well, that's plugged into my computer, and when it's on and running, I can use they call it a DAW, a digital audio workstation. When I plug into my DAW, I think that's such a dumb name, I can play any of my synthesizer sounds, and as anybody knows now, that with synthesizer can recreate just about any sound. So I have guitar sounds, vibe sounds, drum sounds, and
So we can make the vibe sound like any instrument.
Yes, I did a show for.
Probably make it sound like a pig squealing if you wanted.
If I wanted to, it could. I don't need that though. I did a gig with Michael Feinstein, which I guess most of your people might know. He's a beautiful singer, and I did it all on that machine, the Malacat, timpani, xylophone, and I was doing a timpani roll on one of the notes, and it's a timpani, and he turned around and was looking for the timpani, and he couldn't find it, and he looked at me playing that, and he went. So he wasn't in favor of it at all.
Oh wow!
He was kind of bugged, but no one was going to pay me to rent the instruments, and I was like, well, I'm not carrying that stuff in there. No one's going to give me money, so I played everything on there.
Fascinating.
How long has that technology been around?
It's been around since the 80s. If anybody's gone to Radio City Music Hall and seen the Christmas show or any of the other shows, all the percussion is done on that. There's 2 or 3 guys on these instruments, and everything is done on a Malacat now.
Wow.
I was going to say, somebody's going to come along and have 4 of those things as the whole, and make it sound like a whole orchestra.
Yeah, and if it's pop music or it's certain things that's all it's about is money. I mean, why not use one of those? I don't see a lot of something like that replacing a jazz musician. Something where it's about acoustic music, but guys are using more of these things in those settings. But I like playing it, but I like playing that one better.
So folks may not know, but Tony hails from in or around Philadelphia, and can you tell us a little bit about the jazz scene in Philadelphia?
Well, it was it died. In fact, I was in Taiwan when everything started shutting down, and I thought, oh, I'm not going to get home. And
Wow.
I made it home, which was great. And Taiwan is amazing. Nobody in Taipei, nobody had the virus until the day I left, when I think it was an American got off a boat and started infecting people. So they were really good about taking care of it. But when I came home, I lost all my gigs there. I was supposed to go to France and Greece and Ireland and back to France, all canceled, and everything just ended. Now, the club I play at all the time is Chris's Jazz Cafe, and they got tech savvy, and they built a video and audio studio in the club that they do recordings at night, and they stream their shows. And while they're closed, I've been going in there almost every Friday and some Saturdays and playing to, like this, playing to a bunch of great jazz fans. And I've been doing it for months now. And the cool thing is, we go in there, we rehearse at 6. The owner is an amazing cook. He makes dinner for everybody. We eat, we play the gig, and we go home. And
No
I did,
audience.
yeah, we have to deal with no drunk people. Nobody comes up and grabs my sticks, and they're drunk or they fall on my instrument. It's like we just go in there and play, and we come home. So that's been a real treat.
So now a question that hasn't, we've been talking about this a lot throughout the show. Economically, uh, comparatively, do you think, I mean, can artists, could you make a living comparatively to like traveling, performing? I mean, economically, what's the difference? I mean, we've had to do it now, but you're talking about us transitioning into all these new formats. Do you think it's feasible?
Well, I think some people will want you there, and they're going to fly you. I'm going to France this summer if they open up. Right now I think they're closed, but they're supposed to open up. But there's also places that are just nickel and diming you to come there and do something, and then the flight's too much, and this and this, and then they put you in. I was in a hotel once that on the table was a comb and bug spray. So, like you wind up in some of these places, and and you got to fight with people. Get me out of here. Get me out of here. So now those people, if they want to do a workshop or something, we can do it. We can do it right here. I'm doing a workshop June 14th. It's me, Stefan Harris, Joe Locke, Warren Wolf, and David Friedman. And we're going to do the whole thing online. And there's students from all over the world coming.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a new option for us. And we'll figure out how to make money off of it, believe me.
Yeah. So
Will
you
you
got,
tell us a little bit more about that, just in case there are any vibraphone students or sycophants in the audience here?
I'm going to bet there's none. But if there are any, yeah, it's the 14th through the 18th. It's all online. And that's it. It's going to be 6 classes a day, 1-hour classes. And whoever plays vibes, if you're an amateur or a high school or college student, it's for your chance to spend a week with, if I talk about those other 4 guys, I'm just going to leave myself out of it. Those are the 4 best vibe players on the planet right now. So
We had Joe Locke as a guest on one of these Mondays with Mooch shows last year or sometime. Yeah.
well, Joe's my buddy. Yeah.
He actually lives about, I don't know, 5 miles away from me.
Oh, that's
Right
great.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, Joe's fantastic, and he has really worked hard to get to the top. And he's, especially for a vibe player, he's at the top, and he's doing great stuff. So yeah.
now is the Vibe community a kind of a small, kind of tighter knit community than other kind of jazz people play other jazz instruments? I noticed that on your with your Vibe works website, it seems like you're trying to build a global community of vibraphone players.
Well, there's a couple statistical things about it. Every school will have high school will have a big band, but they'll have 1 vibraphone player, but they'll have 5 trumpets and 4 saxophones. So in that way, we're not super popular. But my Vibe site, vibesworkshop.com, has found over 5,000 registered vibraphone players. So if you take the whole world, and 7 billion people, well, about 5,000 of them
Is that
play the
worldwide?
vibes.
Worldwide, 5,000.
Yeah, they're from all over and from strange places. There's a guy in the middle of Ghana. It's 50 miles for him to reach the next person, and he lives in a cabin in the middle of Ghana with his unicycle and his vibraphone. And it's just so
That's
amazing
great.
to get these stories from people. My buddy just flew his vibraphone to the South Pole, to Antarctica, the South Pole. They brought him in, and he set it up and he played at the South Pole. So
That
there's some,
must be chilling.
yes, it was very chilling. Yes, yeah. So there's a lot of cool, interesting things that I'm finding out about what people are doing, and there's enough vibraphone players, and a bunch of them pay me for the lessons on the site, and
Is that
I
why? Is
managed to
that why?
get through. Huh?
Is that why vibes are so expensive? Because there's not many players buying them.
Well,
Wow.
yes, part of it's supply and demand, but compared to what? Not compared to a piano.
A student can get a trumpet for $200. I don't see any because we tried this for our academy. We ended up with a used set, but I don't see anywhere you can a student if he's interested in vibes, where can he get a crappy set of vibes even just to practice on for $200?
No, well, you can get them, and they're going to be used and beat up. But you can, for $1,000, if you look for a while, you can find something. But no, I think it would be too much. You're not going to find a $200 vibraphone because just the metal, I imagine, is a couple $100.
Right.
So
But
now you
I'm
can,
just saying it's an obstacle to students, who may want to try the vibraphone if their high school doesn't have one, and they
That's
want to,
true.
yeah.
That's true. Yep.
so you're in this beautiful studio. Would you be willing to grace us with something? Is that a possibility?
Okay, I'll play something for you. In about at 7:10, I go online with a bunch of students. I get them on Facebook. We study a tune, and we go to Facebook, and then they all have to play the tune. So it's a little crazy because anybody listening is going to hear like 15 versions of the same tune, but it gives them a chance to play. So we're doing Caravan tonight. So maybe I'll go over there and I'll play Caravan.
Now you said 7:10. Is that 8:10 or what?
Eight,
7:10
eight, 10, 8:10. I know. I was here for the sound check at 5:30 instead of 6:30, and I'm going, "Where's Mooch?
Where's
Come
everybody?
on!"
Well, you're all over the world, so your time zones must be everywhere.
Yeah. Well,
Is your thing on Facebook and open to view?
yeah. If you know where to find it, if you go on Facebook and search for vibesworkshop.com, you will see it. It's really the levels of students really vary. So I don't know if it's a performance,
No,
but these
that's
guys
okay.
get their,
There's a bonus, folks. An interesting way to spend a little time,
I
kind of
guess.
sneak into this vibesworkshop.com and snoop around and hear some students.
Yes. All right, let me make my switches here, and then I'll do a sound check, and we'll see if everything still works.
So while you do that, I just want to let people know I did put your website in our chat, tonymiceli.com. That's one L, MICELI.com. And I also put the website for the vibesworkshop.com right there. So while he sets up, I think he's taking a second. Let's see.
You guys hear?
There it is.
Wait a second. I can do one thing here.
That's a great background. Looks like a late night talk show.
Yes, yes. My ex-girlfriend is really handy, and we put curtains up.
It looks good. I'm waiting for Jimmy Fallon to come out there and say something.
Tell me.
Yeah, that's true. You should make an entrance through the curtains. Like a dramatic entrance.
Oh, there's a woman.
Oh, I see.
So how do I sound?
You sound great.
Okay, let's see. So I'll play Caravan.
You might have to do an encore, a little presentation after that.
That was great.
That was wonderful.
Hey, 2 points for anybody who could name all the composers of that song.
Well, I think this
I don't even get to 2 points. I can think of 2. Is there more than 2?
It's not for you, Jesus.
Well,
It's for the
I want to get
audience.
the points.
Anybody? Can unmute yourself if you know.
Who says Juan Tizol?
Who said that?
Lynn Mueller says Swan Tizol.
Yes, yes.
That's one.
Yeah, and of course.
Ray Noble.
Ray Noble?
No. Well, the obvious. Who's the obvious?
Duke Ellington, but
Duke Ellington, of course. Of course, you know,
but
Irving Mills
wrote it.
Irving Mills had to get his hands on it because he wrote lyrics.
I thought it was all Juan, though. I thought it was all Juan Tizol.
In actual, it's probably is Juan Tizol, but Ellington gets the credit also because he's Ellington.
And Juan wrote some other great tunes as well, like Pyramid.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. You get the points.
She gets the points.
We're gonna start giving some gift certificates or something.
Right.
Lynn, you just gave us a new idea. So I noticed that when you were playing that the cameras are switching. So do you have that set up automatically somehow?
Yes, I have another computer over here. I'll show you. There's another computer over there. It's tied to this. This is a video switcher, and that you can script
automatic.
You can script it to, yeah, you got to do a little work in there, but you can set the timing. And I just set it to switch at there's 3 cameras, so I set it to switch 4 times with different intervals, and it's not so obvious. You know, it's like a little bit different each time.
You know, theoretically, with your tech savvy, you should be able to, and that other cool MIDI thing, you should be able to record a rhythm section, bass, drums, piano, the whole bit. You know, a big band, all on that thing, all in your right there in your little studio.
Yeah, well, I do a lot of stuff. It was just when I write tunes, you know, I can pick the instruments and put the parts in. But I think to start to try to make it sound like a big band or something, that just takes a lot of work, a lot of mixing, a lot of all kinds of stuff. But yeah. I use it. I use all this for teaching and for writing, and yeah, and I kind of leave it there. I play that thing the most. I play the other thing, the electronic one, the least. And lately, because of COVID, I used to be really into computers, and I just learned a couple programming languages again. And I started making things like all the guys, when I have a gig, I run a script that checks every day for if there's a gig a week away. And if it is, it gets all the email addresses and sends an email to all the guys to remind them. Because I'm sure, Mooch, you've been on a gig and you're waiting for the drummer, and it's like, you know, I called up a guy one time to say, where are you? And I said, hey, Chris, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, just watching TV. I said, oh, cool.
You're right.
Oh, that's cool. And he said, what are you doing? I said, I'm at the art museum. And he went, oh, shit. And he couldn't make it in time, but that's happened a few times.
Wow. And actually, you know what had happened to me once? I was much younger. I you know, young and cocky, no doubt. And I just completely forgot about a gig. Just totally spaced out, completely forgot about it. And, you know, same thing. The guy called me up and say, where the hell are you?
Yeah.
I said, oh,
I've done
whoops.
It 2 times I've done it, both because of jet lag.
Of course, that guy never called me back for another gig.
No. I call this guy. This guy's my buddy. I call him. He's a good guy. He just...
I've got a question in the chat from Glenn, and Glenn wants to know, tone-wise, what's the difference among vibes, xylophone, and marimba?
Okay, so it's really easy. That question, first of all, if it's really big, it's probably a marimba. And the difference, the marimba and the xylophone are wooden. The vibraphone is metal, so it sustains. The other ones don't sustain. And the big one is the marimba. If it's smaller, about the size of a vibraphone, or shorter, it's a xylophone. And I even think in Greek, xylo means wood, somebody told me. I don't know if that's true or not, but... And that's
there are metal xylophones too, right?
No, it won't be a xylophone. It'll be a glockenspiel or something.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, and it's just the marimba. Most of the percussion students play the marimba, but that thing is 5 octaves and it's gigantic. And I always make this pitch to them, like, you're not going to drag that thing around. You're not going to pack that up in your car and go play a double, do 2 gigs in a day with your 5 octave marimba for $75 a gig. You know, play the vibes because you're going to go out and play. The marimba is basically an institutional instrument. Anybody that plays it great is usually going to a university to play because they have them there. So
that video I showed of the Jaws theme,
yeah,
that had a couple of marimbas,
yeah,
and 2 vibes, I think.
Yes. It's a big difference. And I think, you know, I'm always the owner of my company, Malotech, is the marimba player. And we're always arguing because I'm always saying the vibraphone is so much hipper than the marimba. Like, why would anybody want to play the marimba when you can play the vibraphone? Now, he is a marimba god. In the 70s and 80s, he was the greatest marimba player on the planet.
He's a classical guy.
He's a classical guy, Lee Stevens. and he changed everything. So, and everybody fell in love with the instrument because he was doing all this cool stuff. And I guess they missed Gary Burton because to me, Gary Burton was doing stuff as cool as he was doing. And they all go, I call them woodchuckers. They all turn into woodchuckers. And I try to get them over to the metal. And I get some of them, and they're happy they do it because it fits in the car. You can go to a gig. You can set it up in about 7 or 8 minutes. And you get to play with people. With the marimba, you're always by yourself.
Right.
So,
but it is more of a classical instrument. More composers wrote for marimba than they did for vibes.
Yes. Now, Bobby Hutcherson always brought a marimba out, and Stefan Harris brings a marimba out. But I always think, well, if you're famous, you can get a marimba. But there's nobody that's going to drag their marimba around for gigs. They're just stupid.
But in the classical world, it's part of the percussion section.
Yeah, and they're at schools. They're at the orchestras have them. Yeah, that's different.
Right. Did you know Ian Finkel?
Oh boy, yes.
Ian, baby.
The first time I called him, his phone machine said, "Hello, you have reached the greatest xylophone player on the planet."
Right.
I was like, and I was trying to get him to do something with me, and it was so difficult. It's one amazing musician with an ego to match.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the famous story of him sitting subbing in the Philharmonic, and there was some rip-roaring thing that he had to sight read or something at the rehearsal, and he ran through it like flawlessly, and he put his mallets down in the middle of the rehearsal and said, "How'd you like that, Zuby?" And like the whole orchestra just went dead silent.
Yeah, that's him.
So curious, are there any rock influences in your
oh yeah.
Because I noticed quite a few listings of some rock groups like Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, and a few others.
Yeah, well, I grew up with all that, and when I was supposed to go to college, honestly, I fought with my dad and my mom because I just wanted to play drums, play in a rock band, and get high. Like, that's what I wanted to do when I was 17. That was my future. I thought I can do that the rest of my life, you know? But so I was totally into all that music. And my dad got me the percussion lessons, and that's when I fell in love with the mallet instruments. So my dad really, really kind of, in a way, saved my life. You know, he really got me out of something that would have been, a dead-end streak, leading to nowhere. But all those bands, I played in a couple groups where we did it. I just played last Friday, I played with Lee Smith, that's Christian McBride's father. So I played with him on bass, and we have a great drummer named Byron Landum. And we played Moby Dick. So I bring that stuff out all the time and play it. So you do a Cole Porter tune, you do an Irving Berlin tune, and then you do a Led Zeppelin tune. I mean, that's okay.
That's incredible.
There's a question about 4 mallets as opposed to 2 mallets, and I noticed when you were playing that last tune, boy, do you have a master of the 4 mallet technique.
Well, I'll show you. This, you kind of hold them. I hold them like this. Most guys hold them like this. The only reason I hold them like this is a true story. I can say it now because that person of 21 years old is, like anybody my age knows, you think back and you think, who was that guy at 20 years old? But I went to see Gary Burton play, and I was stoned out of my mind. I did way too many bad things back then. And I saw him playing like this. But he was playing like this. But because of being under the influence, so I went home and learned to play like this. And that's how I got my grip. And it's nicknamed, they call it the Miceli Stone grip, like percussionists. So that's what it got. And about 6 months later, I was home, and my mother was a police officer, so I had to be careful at home. And I was watching NPR, and there was Gary Burton playing, and I'm looking and I'm going, what? What? And he had it the other way. I convinced my teacher, was a percussionist, played with the Philly Orchestra, played with everybody. He changed his grip because he thought this is how Gary Burton played. So he played that grip. Even when he was dying 30 years later, I went to his house and thought I had to tell him the truth. And I went to his house. We had an Italian dinner and everything was nice. And I was going to tell him, and I thought, I can't tell him. So I never told him that that's not how Gary Burton played. But we both switched. And I love playing like this. So I can make it like some divine experience or something. But
well, I mean, by the looks of it, it's like you have impeccable control on, intricate chord voicings and stuff. It's really impressive.
Well, I always think, well, people are out making money. I'm home practicing. That's why I'm poor.
There you go.
That's all I ever wanted to do once I started doing it. I didn't want to do anything else. I didn't care about anything else. I failed at marriage a couple times, and just because of my selfishness with mainly with this instrument, I was just obsessed. I have no idea why. Who knows why people get drawn to things, but it was just, I just wanted to do it. I didn't care if I lived in a cave.
Now, I feel like you probably, for some reason, I don't know why I'm going to ask this, but do you write, I mean, in terms of books or anything? I feel like you have I feel like there's either some great stories or a great something there in terms of your relationship with the instrument.
Yeah, I don't know if, besides a few stories, I don't know if my life would make good reading, because it involves 8 hours a day, just playing that thing.
Well, discipline and training and focus.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a lot of self-esteem, and I never had it, and I never thought I was any good. So that led me to practice like 8 to 12 hours a day. School was from 7 in the morning till midnight. And that was it. I was there. I never stopped. I practiced. I never, but it was that drive inside that I wasn't good. And I got to play it. And I still have it. I get up. I got done playing. You guys might have liked it, but I'm going, oh, man, you can do better. So that'll help me practice tomorrow.
Well, interesting. I won't get into that conversation, but, in terms of our education system, I mean, who says it's perfect? And I mean, there are always ways in which you can reframe and reconstruct, kind of construct different forms of education. So I think identifying what it is that you love and going after your passion, I think that's a beautiful thing, and I think spending that relationship with it is awesome.
So Carmen, I have to pardon me for interrupting, but I have to get this in for our friends at Monmouth Arts. This program is made possible in part by funds from Monmouth Arts, a partner of the New Jersey State Council on the Arts and the Monmouth County Board of County Commissioners.
Yeah. I was in the New Jersey Arts Council for years. You just reminded me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, back in the 80s and early 90s.
Well, go ahead, Carmen.
I was going to say, we also want to say thank you to all of you who have been supporting us weekly by coming to our program. We have been doing this since March of 2020, and it's amazing. So I just kind of want to, maybe if you can turn your mics on or give a show of hands, but we're starting to open things back up. And so I guess the question is should we continue this going even once we're back together? Should we keep this going on Mondays? I see a thumbs up from Lynn. And I see some thumbs up. Okay, good. It's good to know. Just our informal poll here. So yes. I want to thank so many of you for supporting. And I just want to give a few shout outs. Taretha Jones, you've been here with us weekly. Thank you so much for supporting us. And Lynn Mueller, thank you so much for supporting us and giving us a shout out and some love in Metuchen Jazz newsletter. Diana Doolittle, thank you for being here. Lisa Lorelli, thank you so much for supporting us. Edward Ellington, thank you for supporting us. Francis Mulvaney, Wayne Novak, May Louie, and Walter Graysick, and everyone, thank you so much. We can't do this without you. Jazz Arts Project is planning. We have some tentative plans of doing some things. Jazz in the Park is one of those things that we're currently working on.
Oh,
And
that's
of course, we're playing it by ear, but things are moving forward. So Joe is hard at work working on that. Jazz Arts Academy is currently recruiting students for its programs. And this is a year-round education program for high school students. And of course, we have our middle school summer camp, and summer is getting here much faster than I realized. But our middle school summer camp, which is operated free for students in middle school. That's a 6-week program. Last year, we did that completely virtual. This year, we're looking at virtual and maybe a hybrid. So we'll see how that goes. But Joe is keeping his finger on the pulse and keeping us going. And of course, Mondays with Mooch is now our latest creation. Which we will continue doing. And last but not least, I want to say we are also trying to think about our summer jazz cafe and what that might look like. So a lot of things are in the works. So we want to thank all of you for supporting us. And you can support us. You can continue to support us by giving to www.jazzartsproject.org/give, and I'll put that in the chat. That's all I got.
Thank you, Carmen. There's a round of applause for you. Listen,
Tony, thank you, man. You're awesome, man.
I have a kind of a sad note to talk about. One of our dear friends, someone who is a real master pianist for so many years. He has been on our shows several times and was always at our parties. Is really in a bad way, and we expect him to pass within a day or two. Actually, I just spoke to them this evening before I came on. So it's Norman Simmons, unfortunately. I do have a little something I'd like to play of his, if you'll indulge me. This man was such a master of his instrument, and just a beautiful, beautiful man. And it's going to be a very sad loss. So give me a minute here, and I'll play something special for Norman. Well, thanks for letting me pay that homage to our buddy Norman.
He's beautiful. What a player.
Yeah.
Very
Tony, I know you have another show on the boards right now.
Yes.
So I just, thanks so much for doing this.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And hopefully we'll do something live soon. If not, one of these, maybe we could talk about something at Chris's, being sharing a live stream.
Oh,
because we've done a few live streams from here, where we set up a venue here, no audience. A couple of them we had Don Braden on one and Warren Vachey's group on another. Maybe we can collaborate and do something streamed from Chris's.
I will just email me. I'll give you the owner and the guy who books the place.
All right, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
That's a great idea.
Cool.
So can we all give Tony a round of applause and thank him?
Round of applause. Thank you so much, everyone, for showing up.
Yeah. That's great. I appreciate it.
Contributing. And as usual, I should say our normal bent is, if you guys want to, we have an after gig hang always. And if you want to hang out a little bit more, you're welcome to hang out and chat a little bit more. So there's an after gig hang. Yeah, next time, Tony, when you have more time.
Okay, I'll be back.
All right,
sounds good. And if anybody wants to follow Tony and see his students working up Caravan, there's that.
Better love Caravan, because you're going to hear about, I think today, 6 or 7 versions of it.
Sometimes that's really interesting to hear,
Yeah, these guys are great. I think they might. These are going to be mostly guys in their 30s and 40s.
Nothing wrong with that.
Huh?
Nothing wrong with that.
No, they just, they're lawyers and doctors making money, and they just want to learn about the vibes. I think that's the other way to do it.
That's fantastic. Sure.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. Good luck with that, and I'll see you on the flip flop.
See you, everybody. Bye bye. Nice seeing everybody.
Bye.
Hi, Tony.
And the only thing I have left to do before we say goodbye on Facebook and the recording off, I can do this. Bye-bye, everybody.
Good night.